This is a 2025 Subaru WRX TS, the new for this year most performance version of the WRX. By the way, TS stands for Tuned by STI. For 2025, Subaru dropped the base trim of WRX and replaced the TR with this TS, which means we have 4 trims: Premium, Limited, GT, and this TS. In a general sense, Subaru has largely left the WRX alone since its 5th generation debut in 2022, and for 2025, this TS mostly picks up where the TR left off last year. I'll get to more of that in a moment. But the question is, especially since this is the most performance version of the WRX, how does this TS drive? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price of the base Subaru WRX Premium is $36,920. Jumping into this TS raises that price to $46,875. And my test car does include a $395 optional paint and costs $47,270. All right, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside this WRX TS. Looking at the front of the WRX TX, this is largely the same as it has been since it started its 5th generation in 2022. You get the distinctive front hood scoop right here, this grille right here, and these nice and relatively small for the modern era headlamps. But you do now have this WRX in red on the front grille and back here on the rear tailgate, which I'll show you in a minute. And you do also get this new Galaxy Pearl paint, which you'll get a better look at in a moment as well. This being a performance sedan, we do have aluminum front fenders on both sides and an aluminum hood. That helps take weight off the car and critically off the front end. I definitely appreciate that. But all right, the hood scoop's plenty obvious. Let's see what it's feeding underneath it. Well, there it is, your 2.4 liter flat 4 engine, turbocharged of course, making 271 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. This engine was new for 2022 with the new 5th generation car, but has gone unchanged since. And even though this is the most performance version of the WRX, it maintains the same engine and the same horsepower. Looking at the car in profile, this gives you a nice look at the new for 2025 Galaxy Purple Pearl paint. This is a $395 optional color, and I think it looks nice. Unless it's getting direct light, it looks very blue to me, but in the direct light, you can see the purple. It's a very deep purple. It's a very nice color. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now for you to see and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Here's a closer look at these 19-inch satin gray finished wheels on the WRX TS with, frankly, a very cool design built into it. A lot of open space, so you can see that these are larger and cross-drilled rotors. We also have different brake pad material that are supposed to give a little bit more stopping power, a bit more feel. We also have 6 piston fixed front calipers right here by Brembo, nice and easy to see. And yeah, it definitely makes a more serious and purposeful look, not least of which wouldn't be the high performance Bridgestone S007 tires. However, we are still in very early spring in Michigan here, and alas, it is below freezing, and we are still wearing winter tires on my test car. So I will not be able to personally feel the large amounts of lateral grip provided by the Bridgestones, but we're still going to get a sense of how this car feels in the chassis department nonetheless. And yes, it's the same size wheel and tire in back as it is in the front. Different brake rotor and caliper though. Looking at the car from the rear, first, here's that red WRX lettering that I spoke about as promised, just above the TS. Below that, tuned by STI. Well, there it is. 13 cubic feet of trunk space right here. Pull a couple levers on the top of the second row, and the seats fold down to give you more than 13 cubic feet. Okay, let's take a look at the inside. One thing that you'll notice right away for the TS are these distinctive bright blue accents that you see throughout the interior. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and you see I have a few inches of knee room right here. Also, the seat bottoms are relatively high, so I have decent thigh support. I do not have quite enough headroom, but it is close. I don't have to slouch too much, and that is courtesy of the fact that we do not have any kind of moonroof in the TS. That is purposeful to give a little bit more headroom and take some weight out of the car up high. It also is a cheaper way to build a car, but headroom ultimately still suffers. Ow, ow. On the bright side, I definitely have less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. More blue accents on the door, of course, and on the seats, but check out these seats. These are Recaro sport seats, and they've got deep upper bolsters right here, and they are thick and snug, and deep lower bolsters as well that hold you in place really well. This is fantastic. Branded Recaro right there, and embossed WRX TS right there. And that is, of course, on both of the front seats. The driver's seat is 8-way power adjustable. We do have a nicer Harman Kardon stereo system. That's all lovely. The usual controls on the door right there, and a couple of controls to the left of the steering wheel right there, just above the aluminum pedals. And yes, you counted right, 3 pedals to look at. We do have a clutch. We do have a 6-speed manual transmission. That is the only transmission offered on the WRX TS, which I deeply appreciate. And of course, the steering wheel adjusts both tilt and telescope manually with this lever right here. The steering wheel itself is a nice fat rim, small diameter. It does say WRX right there, and it also has some blue stitching to match the accents around the car. A nice little TS tribute right there. I like that it is a flat bottom. I like that it is a thick rim. I do wish it was a slightly grippier material than this, but generally it's a very good wheel. We do also have plenty of controls. Looks like mainly cruise control options on the right, media control options on the left. Just behind the wheel, we do have our red STI engine start button right here. And that lights up our fully digital 12.3-inch instrument cluster screen. Next to that is our 11.6-inch portrait mounted center display, and that does include wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. You do also get dual zone climate control and heated front seats, and those are standard on the WRX. All right, let's talk drive modes. You can change them with this button right here, and when you press it, it goes through the cycle, which you can see beneath the tachometer right there. But I want to show you on the center display right here, because hit the vehicle right there, goes to vehicle control. You can hit drive mode select right here, and when you go through the different drive modes, it shows you what it's changing as you change the drive modes. So comfort, and then I'm going to use the button on the steering wheel again. Normal, sport, which is the default setting. This is what you get on engine start. Sport plus, which cranks everything up, and then also individual. And you can see that you do have suspension adjustment. We do have adjustable shock absorbers in the TS this will have real effects on how the car behaves in terms of the chassis, not just the powertrain. Something I'm definitely looking forward to playing with, but to play with it, of course, I need to get back on the road. So let's get back on the road. All right, let's dig into this powertrain, talk a little bit more about this 2.4 liter flat 4 turbocharged engine. It makes 271 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 258 pound-feet of torque between 2,000 and 5,200 RPM. This is the same engine as the rest of the WRX lineup, and indeed the same engine it's had since 2022. It's quite a bit different than the 2021 turbocharged 2 liter of the last generation WRX, but not in the ways you'd expect. That engine made 268 horsepower and the same 258 pound-feet of torque, and it did so at similar RPMs. The difference is that one relied much more heavily on turbo boost to make its power. That engine peaked at 15.9 psi, this one at just 12. And that means that this one lags less, feels more linear, and just builds power, builds speed much better than before. It is a huge improvement in terms of feel from the powertrain. I'm in 5th gear right now. If I floor it, there's some lag, but then it builds up pretty well. And I get moving in a pretty darn smooth and healthy way. There's not this like 5 seconds just sitting there waiting kind of a feel. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean. And that's in 5th gear. If I first shift it to 3rd and floor it, yeah, I get good pull pretty much right away. The 2 liter could make effectively the same peaks as this 2.4 liter can, but getting to those peaks and how it gets to those peaks is much broader and smoother in this 2.4 liter. It is a vast difference. Now, you're wondering why I'm talking about an engine between 2021 and now in 2025. I haven't yet reviewed a WRX for this channel, so it's been a minute since I've been in one. We do have a pretty average for these days, 10.6 to 1 compression ratio. We do use direct fuel injection, and it does ask for premium fuel to make its full power. But despite of all those things I just said about this engine, it's the transmission that I'm happiest about. It is a 6-speed manual transmission. I haven't reviewed anything with a manual transmission in a good long while, and being back in one just reminds me how much I miss them. For the WRX TS, the 6-speed manual is the only transmission you can get. The Premium and the Limited have as an option something Subaru calls the Subaru Performance Transmission, and the GT only comes with that performance transmission. But what that is actually is a continuously variable transmission with set ratios built into the programming to make it feel like an automatic. If you'd rather have the SPT, Subaru Performance Transmission, it costs an extra $1,350 in the Premium and $1,550 in the Limited. Of course, this being a WRX, we do get all-wheel drive, full-time all-wheel drive, and it does have a mechanically locking center differential to do the work, and active torque vectoring as well. The default driving mode in the Subaru on startup is the sport driving mode, so that's what I'm in right now. Currently in 5th gear, shifting to 3rd, floor it. Good pull. Rev limiter, shift, 4th gear. Strong engine. I really like this 2.4 liter. This is the right direction to go. Give us a little bit more displacement, worry less about turbo pressure, and just enjoy yourself. Now, if I slow down a little bit, go to 2nd gear, floor the throttle. Still takes a moment to build pressure, but it's not bad, and the pull is strong. And it revs pretty well, considering that it's a turbo engine. The revs are on the low side, 6,000 RPM, but it builds those revs freely, it bounces off the rev limiter lightly, and the transmission is nice and light clutch, makes it easy to shift quickly. I really appreciate that. Now, there is one more level of sport, the Sport Plus driving mode. For the engine, it doesn't really matter. We only have 2 settings, normal and sport. You can go the other way. and put it into comfort driving mode, and that definitely calms down the throttle map, which in normal driving circumstances, especially in the city, that can be helpful to keep things smooth. But, you know, the steering's a little bit on the light side for me, and obviously the shifting's the same. So it's really not bad. It's nice to have that adjustment when you also have a manual transmission. And another fun fact about this manual transmission, it's actually the better choice for fuel economy. You get 19 miles to the gallon in the city, 26 miles to the gallon on the highway, 22 combined. If you instead get the Subaru Performance Transmission, CVT, you get 18 miles to the gallon in the city, 25 miles to the gallon on the highway, 21 combined. Of course, while fuel economy is important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating, and obviously I'm having too much fun not to do it anyway. Of course I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test in the WRX TS. I do have it in the Sport Plus driving mode, and I do have traction control off, but I am not expecting any wheel slip with all-wheel drive. To be honest, this is a manual transmission, which is fantastic, but it's not my car, so I am gonna take it easy on the clutch, and I'm not gonna go crazy. So this isn't gonna be the fastest possible acceleration, but more feeling what full throttle acceleration is like. All right, let's find out. Okay, coming to a complete stop. About 4,000 RPM. Slip the clutch. Oh, a little bit of slip. Early shift so we don't overdo it. 6,000 RPM, 2, 3. Ah, that's good pull. Yeah, it's good strong pull. Yeah, bounce off the rev limiter for the 3-4 just a little bit, but wow, that's nice. This is an excellent example of the advantage of going to a 2.4 liter instead of a 2 liter engine. There's just so much more inherent grunt. We're relying less on the turbo, more on the displacement, and that just gives it a more balanced, more linear feel. And yeah, strong pull from this 2025 WRX TS. And oh, so good to have a manual transmission. All right, let's dig into the chassis. This is built on the Subaru Global platform. That has been true since the 2022 WRX. And what's different from the TR to this new TS is that we also have STI tuned adjustable shock absorbers. We have 3 settings: comfort, normal, and sport. So 3 levels of tune and stiffness to go with a heavier, more precise steering. We also get less body roll and, you know, better response. That is a nice addition to the TR, to be sure. In the comfort driving mode, I find this plenty compliant to go over bumps and lumps of the road without any trouble. And we still have respectable body roll and those types of things. The steering isn't heavy here, but it's not overly light either. So a few turns of the wheel, I have decent response. I actually have pretty quick response. You do feel some lean, but it's not bad. And this is the comfort driving mode. Car starts up in sport. That gives you the heavier steering and firms up the chassis 1 level. Turn the steering wheel a bit now, the response is really good, but the body roll is noticeably less. So that feels really good. That's a great default setting. And for me personally, it is still compliant enough for bumps in the road. We do also have one more setting, Sport Plus. Now the suspension is full stiff and everything else is as quick reacting as it can be with a nice heavier steering. Turn the wheel a few times now, and yeah, you can get aggressive with it, and the body really just keeps flat, so you get good holistic response from the car. It's a little bit difficult here though, because now we're officially too stiff for the tire. So now the tire is rolling over some, the tire is leaning some, and so I don't have a complete understanding of what the TS really feels like on its high performance summer tires in the Sport Plus driving mode. But what I can feel does feel nice. And even though I have winter tires, and even though it's cold, it's just been such a long time I've been in something like this. Of course I had to see how it handles as best as I can in these conditions. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a handling test. I do have the STI in the Sport Plus driving mode again. I do have traction control off again, and I do have winter tires. So this is not going to be fully representative, but I still want to get a feel of how this car feels, what the steering weight is like, what the suspension tune is like, those types of things. So let's see how it feels. Here we go. Good pull, definitely good pull. Understeer courtesy of winter tires, but not much body roll. Yeah, I mean, we've got winter tire understeer, but otherwise we've got really fast responsive steering and a nice and flat body, very little motion in the body, and the stiff suspension, you can feel it when we go over the whoops in the road. It is tight and I love it. Oh yeah, you can feel the whole body get light over those whoops. Yeah, just the front end bounces a bit with the winter tires. That hurts us. Massive understeer. But man, I mean, really good chassis tune, good body feel. You have a really good sense of where the limit of this car is, but the chassis balance is a little bit off kilter because of the winter tires. So that's why it's a little bit hard to determine whether this really feels fantastic or not, but it feels pretty good on winter tires. I'm certainly smiling, that's for sure. So yeah, it's promising at the very least to say, and with the right tire, it could be pretty darn epic. Of course, sooner or later, you're gonna have to drive every car on the interstate. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate, and I do have the on-ramp to myself. Poor winter tires. Okay. We do have eyesight driving assistance in the WRX TS. I will go ahead and put that up on the screen for you to see. We do also have it back in the comfort driving mode, and I just turned traction control back on as well. Cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic, and I do have all the driving assistance things on, and that includes keeping in the lane. So I'll take my hands off the wheel now, and sure enough, we are tracking pretty darn well. Yeah, this is right up there with Toyota's lane tracing assist. That's really good. Also, Subaru has this little light system right up at the base, so it's not a head-up display, but it has several LED screens to show you whether you're centered in the lane, off to one side, or just something's awry. So I'm gonna hold up my camera, see if I can show you that. Right now, we are centered in the lane, but if I go off to one side, you can see it saying, hey, not on one side, go to the other side. Hey, so there it is. Also, we do have this driver assistance screen right now. You can see that we have the steering assist on and it is active, and we have a car that's about to come into our lane, and there it is right there. So it shows one lane of information right there, but you still get a good sense of what the Subaru can see. More fundamentally, we are of course in the 6th gear, and that means RPMs around 2,700. I think 2,650 is what I'm seeing at 70 miles an hour right now because of traffic. Get up to an open lane, and that gets us to 2,850 for RPMs. It's nice and subdued, and it's also a good tone from this flat 4, so I really don't mind it, but it is definitely louder than automatics these days, especially when you can get up to 10 speeds, and the modern CVTs usually keep revs below 2,000 RPM. Otherwise, wind isolation and road noise isolation is actually pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised that the WRX is as good as it is. Now, this is nowhere near premium car territory, but I don't know, I was expecting something a little bit more tinny than this. And courtesy of these Recaro seats, this is actually a pretty darn comfortable cruiser. So, what do I think of this 2025 Subaru WRX TS? Well, as I think is pretty obvious, I'm quite happy with the bigger engine, going from the 2 to the 2.4 liter. While it didn't grant us huge gains in peak performance, definitely gave us much more drivability, made it a lot easier to enjoy the performance in the WRX. That is a holistically good change. I am a little miffed that the TS doesn't get any added horsepower. Maybe crank things up just a little bit for the special car. Something more like 290 horsepower would have been nice, especially since Subaru is essentially using the STI name in this WRX. But in their modern era, it still feels quick, it still feels fun, and they kept the WRX relatively light, so the weight to power ratio is pretty good. On the plus side, they did tune these shock absorbers really well, and the 3 different settings are distinct. You get 3 different feels from the car, and Sport Plus is properly stiff, properly hunkered down. I really appreciate that. And I love these heavily bolstered Recaro seats. I feel snug. I feel very much a part of this car, in this car. It makes it really easy to feel the suspension, feel the movements in the car, and react to them, and not be sliding around yourself a bunch. And of course, I absolutely adore having a manual transmission to play with again. Blissfully, this is a nice, smooth operating manual transmission. It's easy to shift quickly. It's easy to use. I just deeply appreciate it. But I do have to say that driving the TS and getting towards what the WRX STI used to be does make me feel a little bit nostalgic for the STI. The realities of the modern world, stricter emissions and things like that, push the STI from being able to just continue, and I get it. But it did leave a hole that the TS does not quite fill. Then again, I do have a manual transmission to play with, and to be honest, it actually gets pretty close. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.